I mean, like tale as old as time. I feel like we see so many headlines now. They're like Prince back, and I'm like, yeah, no shit, it never went away. People want to connect and people want to read real things. I mean, you can look at this, like the trend of romance novels, like they're on the rise, and that's because like people do want to be together and like hold something and feel something. But again, like the platforms will always change. I think what's important to me with Cosmo and 17 is like the brand propositions are clear, so that if Instagram, if TikTok, if whatever went away tomorrow, they would come find us.
Hip Replacement, episode number 42, in front of a live audience.
That was amazing. It was like you guys have practiced that.
Yeah,
that was
can you imagine? We are joined today by Willa Bennett, who is the editor-in-chief of Cosmopolitan and 17 magazines, and is a friend and is a very keen voice on the future of media and just what young people think generally. So we're very pleased to have you here. Thank you, Willa, for being here.
Thank you for having me. The Cosmo hat looks amazing on you.
I got it.
Are you pandering?
I got it from a friend, and she said, we didn't make very many of these. You got to have one. And so I said, all right, great. So thanks for that.
Of course. It looks amazing on you. You're actually the demographic.
I am told that I'm a winter, and so navy is a good color on me.
It's a good color.
Thank you.
Very cool. It looks great.
Thank you. Well, so Willa, first question. This is the 42nd episode of Hip Replacement. Are you aware that 42 is the answer to the meaning of life?
No, but I love to learn new things. So please tell me.
Okay. Go ahead, Kyle.
We had a meeting about this last week, this episode. And I was like, oh, it's in the 42nd episode. And Ben said the exact same thing. And I was like, okay, like, is this like when Jesus died at like 32 or whatever? Like, what is this?
He was 33.
Sure. Thank you, fact checkers. He was 33.
Fact checkers in the crowd.
But I was like, I don't know what that means. So Ben, what does that mean?
So for all of our Gen X audience members, you of course know that 42 is the meaning of life that is calculated by the supercomputer Earth in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series. I use it. Oh, wow.
That's what they say.
That impressed no one. All right, fine.
Notice how you had no laughs?
I got a couple of nods. That's what I wanted. That's what I wanted.
Yes.
Well, anyway, welcome to our...
You should have said 6'7".
Sure.
Well...
Wow, this audience is amazing.
Well, yeah.
You're on the right side of history, by the way.
Thank God. We had a 41 joke last time. So, in any case, we talk each week about issues that might affect generations X, Y, and Z from our various generational perspectives. And Willa, you are not strictly speaking Gen Z, correct?
Yeah. Can I just disclose something? I'm actually not Gen Z at all. But I love our audience that's Gen Z, and I respect that. But I personally am not Gen Z.
Okay, well, I wasn't accusing you of anything.
You really were.
Very clear.
You can take cusp, though.
Sure. Yeah. Right. You're Zillennial with a Z, not with an X, because
I'm just Willa, but no problem.
Sure. Okay, just Willa.
That's the name of your single.
So true.
Well, so listen, Just Willa. We wanted to just ask to start with. There was a story this week about the persistence or the persisting appeal of Y2K style with Gen Z audiences or people, just generally speaking. As somebody who surveys the entire landscape, style, culture, the news, what do you put that down to?
Okay, so there's one story that can sum up everything you need to know, and I know you're going to roll your eyes, so I ask that you maybe don't. Can I get your upfront?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So my door's open, right? And Olivia Rodrigo had just did this like iconic set at a music festival, right? And
love her, by the way.
There's a special guest, David Byrne, that comes out. And my door's open in my office, and I hear someone being like, so cool, this emerging artist that like Olivia Rodrigo is like championing is David Byrne.
Oh
so
my
cool.
God.
And I hear that, I go, what? So I walk outside, I go to my staff, I go, what? And this amazing person on my staff who is Gen Z was like, oh, the person that Olivia is championing. And so that's what I have to say to you. It's like, to them, it's not like they're pulling from different generations. They're discovering for the first time. And obviously the trends are amazing. So why wouldn't they pull from it?
Right.
And by the way, you didn't roll your eyes, so we're off on a good start.
Well, no. David Byrne for me isn't Y2K at all. So
imagine thinking Olivia Rodrigo discovered David Byrne.
Right.
She did though.
She literally did.
I mean, bless it. I think that's really it's interesting, right? Because clearly one of the things that Olivia Rodrigo, in all seriousness, big fan, and
huge fan, by the way, voice of our generation, potentially.
Yeah, Olivia, come on the pod.
No, voice of our generation. Let's talk about it.
Okay, I don't know if I'm prepared for that, but I do. I'm sincerely a big fan. But one of the things.
Really, are you? Name 3 songs.
Ooh.
Okay. Get him back.
Oh, nice. That's a good one.
Thank you. Diary of a Teenage.
Another good.
At what?
You Got This.
And then driver's license. Obviously.
Driver's license. Incredible.
Yeah, I like the second record better than the first one, but that's
they're all amazing to me. Everything's perfect.
Next on Olivia Rodrigo pod. So just only JK guys. What I was going to say though was that the idea that David Byrne would be discovered by young audiences has a lot to do with the algorithmic fine-tuning of our social platforms, right? Through TikTok clips or sounds that are being used, or just generally through surfacing, your Spotify recommendations and stuff. There is a potential UK ban on socials that's very similar to the Australian one that's being discussed now. And I wonder, as the editor of a teen publication, how do you look at something like that? Is that good, bad? Does it hurt your new audience funnel? Does it protect your people and make them more well-rounded audience members before they arrive to you? Like, how do you see that?
Yeah, there's like 2 ways I think about it. One, well, first off, I was like the type of teen that was like, oh, I'm technically not allowed to have Facebook, but I'll find a way. And I was one of, I'm this interesting generation where it's like half my high school friends were like all over LiveJournal, all over MySpace, all over Facebook even. And then the other half were like, what's that? So I feel like I speak to both halves. I think what's interesting and something I've learned about Gen Z is like they'll find a way. So like Heated Rivalry, by the way, only available in the US for a while? No. UK got it. They changed their VPN. They found it. They were like streaming that, talking to me about it in a way that like, I was like, you've seen it. We're game. We're talking. But at the same time, I think something that I think a lot about is a lot of executives in tech actually don't let their kids on social platforms. Mm-hmm. And someone said that to me recently, and that kind of changed the way I thought of it, because I was like, okay, if you're letting like the people you love most not on it, like we got to talk about this.
Totally.
So I think those both are true. But I think the worst thing that a brand like Cosmo or 17 could do is like reject it completely. I think it's important that we acknowledge that like our audience actually is like very online. They're connecting, they're dating, they're finding love, they're redefining sex, like all on these platforms. And it's important for us to like reach these people and inform them and not like judge them for that. But at the same time, both truths are real.
What I was going to say is like that I think is a very good point. And that's one thing in the discussion of the like Australian social media ban and the UK one that keeps coming up. Like there are larger implications across tech and social, whatever, from that happening. But like one thing on like the teens being off it thing is that it's like, they will find a way. Like, don't worry about the teens. Like, I think worry about maybe the larger social implications of like, government surveillance and things like that. Like that is what you worry about. Like the teens, like they're going to figure it out. Like they always do. We did in my generation, like as things were emerging, and I'm sure in ways you did too in your generation too, Ben. Like there's always
just a VPN. It's actually really easy.
Yeah, exactly. But like another thing too that I'm sort of curious about, Willa.
Different analogs.
We're off to a great start over here.
No, I know what a VPN is. Don't you come at me
I
with
would
that.
never.
Hey.
You're wearing a Cosmo hat. You're in my good graces.
True.
No.
Another thing I was sort of curious about, Willa, though, is like, hypothetically, well, if that dynamic is going to change, like let's say every kid won't be able to have access to a VPN, or maybe they don't know about it. I'm sure they will. I think that they will be fine. However, I'm sort of curious, like if that sort of dynamic will shift as far as like what you might have to show up for editorially. Like maybe it's not necessarily an explainers on trends because they might not be able to have access to that online, but like will there be more maybe like social inputs that appear quote unquote in print that maybe weren't before? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, like tale as old as time. I feel like we see so many headlines now. They're like Print's back, and I'm like, yeah, no shit, it never went away. Like people people want to connect and people want to read real things. I mean, you can look at this, like the trend of romance novels, like they're on the rise. And that's because like people do want to be together and like hold something and feel something. But again, like the platforms will always change. I think what's important to me with Cosmo and 17 is like the brand propositions are clear, so that if Instagram, if TikTok, if whatever went away tomorrow, they would come find us.
What is the current line? Like, how do you explain the Cosmopolitan brand, the 17 brand right now?
Cosmo is the authority on love and relationships. 17 is it all starts at 17.
Ooh.
All right.
It's almost like I knew like, the answer.
Well,
considering that it was my 16-year-old blowing up my text earlier and telling me that she's like, I'm good to know that her life is going to start in September.
Get ready.
Are you prepared for what's about to happen?
Well, you know, it sort of gets a little bit to my thoughts on the social media ban in a way. Like, logically speaking, I agree with the idea that access to those platforms should be limited to some extent, because I think they're distracting, and because I think they complicate young people's lives in a way that some people can't adapt as well as we would like them to can. That being said, whenever I get an alarmist, and this happens a lot, my kids are the eldest of anybody in my peer set. Like we had kids before any of my other friends did. And so they are now dealing with tweens, and some of them will read, you know, the Jonathan Haidt book or whatever and get apoplectic. And I'm just like, guys, kids are durable. They will figure this out. And not in terms of they'll figure out a VPN to access whatever
they
weird shit.
That too,
but
so did they watch Heated Rivalry? Yes or no?
I don't think my daughter has watched
like
it
something
yet.
they say to their dad.
Would they tell? Yeah, would they tell you?
She's actually so my daughter Harper is 16, and she's very forthright about the stuff she is watching. Somebody asked me the other day, like, what is she watching? I was like, I don't know, His and Hers right now, which is, you know, this murder show on Netflix. But she's also watching it while she's on Roblox talking to her friends, like in conversation. So there's a second and third screen aspect to it. She's doing snap streaks, and it's all happening at the same time. And so I trust her to modulate the way that she ought to. So I would like her to do all of those things less, but I trust her to modulate when she does.
I mean, I've met her. She's a great kid. You're doing a great job. But I do think like something.
Series producer Campbell, who normally puts the show together, on the other hand,
he's been on the pod.
That's my 19-year-old, and he produces the podcast most of the time.
Oh, yeah, that's so cool. Family
very
business.
Cute. All in the family. But like one thing I think that sort of comes up in this discussion, and I'm curious from both of your sort of perspectives on either side, is that like I think the comparison is coming up more and more of like these social bans being akin to like smoking bans, and that like it's for myriad reasons it's not good for you, quote unquote, and like as an adult, like that's up to you to decide your relationship with it. And like there are all the studies and all the sort of findings, whatever, be it that Jonathan Haidt book, which is pretty extremist, but like there is that sort of like, well, let's pause them so that they can maybe decide that later while their brains are developing. So I'm sort of curious, like what maybe as a parent and as somebody who is sort of like working in this space to speak to them, like do you think that that is a true comparison? And is that something that we're going to continue to hear about?
I don't know, Willa, you got any thoughts on teen smoking?
I always got a ton of thoughts, but
you go first then.
Okay, so I have two teen sisters, and over break I was helping them apply for jobs. One of them's about to graduate, and like I feel like the big takeaway was like not like helping her get jobs, but helping her like have the right conversations and like present herself in a way that like was more interesting. And then another thing that I really learned from my time with her and my Christmas with her was like talking to her about like applying for jobs and what she was looking for out of life. And I feel like that was the biggest thing. Like it wasn't me like shaming her for using AI or like shaming her for like the courses she took. It was really just like listening to her and like helping her feel fulfilled in her life. And I feel like in my work, I feel that way similarly. Like I'm not here to like tell people to get off Instagram. I'm not here to tell people to get off Snapchat. Like I'm just here to like help people like be more aware of their decisions and help them.
That's great.
in the cosmosphere, like help them find love and relationships that are like actually fulfilling and actually healthy and live a fulfilled life. I don't think like I hope to never be in a position where I'm like, get off Instagram. Like that's just not realistic.
Yeah. I mean, my get off any platform reaction tends to be, again, because of distraction, because it's like you're not participating with the moment that you're in. And so I would like you to stop doing whatever you're doing because you're not present. Like, get present, and then it's okay. I don't know, Kyle. I don't think that I think the comparison to smoking is. I don't know. I have a hard time finding like traction with that, because smoking is materially bad for you.
Totally, I agree.
Whereas these other things, I think it is conjecture.
Totally. And I think what you're exactly right, is like, it's more just like, you know, it is a different sort of self-control thing. It's not the same. And I think it gets at this, like, you know, this thing, and maybe some people in the room have them, but like, it's one of those things where it's like, I'm going to get a dumb phone and I'm going to do this and that to sort of like work around the issue versus changing the relationship with it.
Do we have any dumb phones in the audience, just out of curiosity? Do we have any bricks in the audience? Anybody got the brick device?
Oh, okay.
We got a few, couple of, we got a couple of, and we got one reticent hand over there.
Yeah.
Wasn't sure. Yeah, look, I think this is, Willa, this is actually an interesting question to swing to some degree. Like, we appear to be, partially because of the apparent dissolution or falling apart or dematerialization of the TikTok algorithm that's happening like literally right now. And then also because there is just algo fatigue or platform fatigue or whatever it is, there's this push, I think, for young people to kind of get off of screens, get out, touch grass, which is a term I hate, but nonetheless, like it's what they're doing. Is that something you see reflected in communications from your audiences, be they here, be they elsewhere in the world?
I will say, like, events are really exciting for us, because like I love talking to readers. Like, how cool that like I can look out into a space and be like, everyone here reads Cosmo, and like we all like are like-minded in that way. I think it's like so exciting and amazing. I'm like not of the belief of like you should ban it or like you should, you know, I'm just like, let's respond to culture. And again, like if people use brick to like have a healthier relationship, like awesome, good for you, like no judgment. I'm just like curious. One of my friends was talking about how like brick has like completely like changed her relationship with her partner, and my like first instinct was just like, why? Like that's so interesting that like brick has had such like a positive effect.
Did she brick or did the partner brick?
She bricked.
Okay.
And she is writing about it for Cosmo, so you can read it soon.
Oh, cute. Okay.
But I was so curious because I was like, wow, like that's so like, so that's kind of where I come at it, where I'm just like curious. I'm like, so what was it about brick that like made you talk to your husband more, and like what were the questions that were different? Like I'm very curious about it, but I'm like, everyone has like their things that they need, and that's okay.
You know, I mean, in their relationship it's brick, in my relationship it's psychedelic therapy, and so you know, it's
love that.
No, I'm not joking.
You want to tell us more about that? Sounds like another Cosmo piece.
It's actually, I do like. Is that a Gen X thing? I have no idea. I'm curious.
Okay, not to turn this into a total digression about Ben's trip upstate, but do you want to
write for Cosmo?
Yeah, 100%. You know, I started my career as a freelance journalist in New York.
At Cosmo?
There we go.
Not at Cosmo.
Say yes.
No.
Sounded like that was the best.
No, it was in the days of free weekly newspapers in, you know, the cities across America. Anyway, the retreat I went on was 16 people across Gens, probably Z, definitely millennial, definitely X, definitely boomer. And it was pretty universal, and everybody was there working on something, but it was all a little bit different. So I mean, you know,
but it was like a therapy. Okay, that's very interesting. I mean, that's a thing people do. It's
happy to talk to everybody after the fact, you know, make recommendations, etc. But okay, look, speaking of Cosmo, and speaking of family dynamics, you had a big piece this week about how there were more and more people were cutting ties with their family across generations. And I wonder if you just tell us a little bit about that and maybe reflect on it a little bit. I feel very blessed to be in good, close touch with both my parents and also with my kids. But that isn't the case for many people. And I've never had to go out and choose a family as a replacement for the family that I have. But I also recognize that's the thing that happens a lot. And so I'm just curious, like where did that story come from? What grabbed you about it? any other reflections on it, please.
Yeah, so there's a very public family right now going through a very public split.
Yes. We don't need to say too much more about that.
Anyone have any questions?
Yeah.
No, basically that news broke, I believe it was Sunday, if I'm correct. Yes, it was during the award show. And what's interesting about it is like, we obviously have this incredible writer and staff who really like follows culture and responds to it. And so, we were talking back and forth, and she kind of tied it to like a larger trend happening with younger readers that basically are feeling more comfortable like rethinking their definition of family. And I was like, follow that, like that's so interesting. And as we digged in more, it is true, like a lot of younger people are rethinking family and like what that means. And sometimes we live in like very divisive times. Like sometimes it's political, sometimes it's more just like social, sometimes it's people are being exposed to different types of family and chosen's family, and so that's kind of come up. But the piece like really exploded, and that was so interesting to me because I was reading all the comments and I was like, wow, like our readers are feeling really empowered to like look at the people we're blood related to and really have questions about it. And that's something that like when I was growing up, I didn't think. I feel very lucky. I'm very close to my parents, but I do think it's this relatable thing where it's like they're seeing so much on social media that there is more to dream about. And I think that is more the thing that we picked up on. And I think we really tapped into that.
That's really interesting, the idea that there's more to dream about. Kyle, anybody who reads the Trend Report knows that you have a, you have a, I don't want to overstate it, but like you have a complicated relationship with your family. Talk about that a little bit.
You're gonna out him.
No. Believe me, anybody who reads the Trend Report is aware of this. And you guys, by the way, please subscribe to the Trend Report.
Subscribe.
Well, it's a funny. It's funny because like this. I'm sure there are a lot of writers in here, and like a lot of. I've taken a lot of writing classes, et cetera, and a lot of people in nonfiction who are sort of trying to get into that are always like, I'm so scared. Like, I'm going to write about my family and they're going to whatever. And it's like, who gives a shit? I think just like get it out there. Like, and that's the thing to that point is like, I'm very public about these things. And I'm surprised more people like in that universe, meaning my family, don't come and knock on my door and be like, hey, you're not talking to your dad? Like, okay. But like that is, it's funny, number one. But number two, yes, to that point, like the story was really resonant because I do think in a lot of ways, like this story may be appealing to younger people is in the shadow of some way of a lot of, 2010s conversations with queer people and millennials sort of like rethinking that dynamic, which obviously is standing on the shoulders of many other people and many other groups and walks of lives as well. But like, yeah, it's an interesting thing because like I do think it relates to age and sort of like thinking about your relationship with anybody and just sort of like, what am I getting out of this in a way? And like it's not to be selfish, but like if there truly is like even somebody in your family and they're not giving you that sort of like love that you're giving your friends or you're giving other family members that they're giving you back, it's like that is reason enough, I think, to question it. And that's sort of how I and even my sister and maybe some other people in my family have sort of approached it, is that it's just like, well, we don't get each other. There's never been a sort of attempt to get each other. So like, why as a formality am I just going to like try to constantly just like do that outreach and just get like, and just like not even seeing me as a person. So it's just like, I'm wasting my time. And at a certain point, it's just like, it's not worth it.
You feel like you've fulfilled the requirement, so to speak.
That in a way, but I think like to the point of the story is that like, I think a lot of people maybe who aren't at quote unquote such a big age like me, like you need permission to do that, be it from a friend or from a story to just be like, oh, that's possible. And like, I can get it from XYZ things. The other thing I think as well is really important in those conversations too. And I think about this a lot as well, is that like, that doesn't mean like doors are closed forever. It doesn't mean like you're literally like chopping off a limb. And like, I think that sometimes that dynamic, it's funny, I was talking to a friend and I was like, yeah, I don't talk to my dad as much. He was like, but you have his last name. I'm like, why am I going to change my last name? Like, I'm like, I have been working publicly for like almost 20 years, if not more. I'm not going to change my name. And like, I don't look at the name and get like triggered, like short, like no, like if that is you, change it. But I also am just like, it's not I don't give it any power. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think that's a whole other thing too, is that like a familiar relationship, like any relationship, and you have power in that too.
Yeah. I always say relationships are long, and all relationships are work, whether that be like a friendship,
That's right.
a parent, again, a best friend, like a romantic relationship. Like it all takes work. It's all hard and it's easy all together, and like it's okay. Life is long.
Yeah.
So I was really struck by the thought that Kyle just surfaced, which was that an article might give somebody permission to go, oh, I can change my approach to my family or to whatever, my outlook on the world. There have been many different forms of media that have done that for me at various points throughout my life. As an editor, is that your job? Is that your, like, the goal to try to curate unlocks for people like that, or is it something else? What's the modern editor doing right now?
I don't think I'm like sitting at my desk being like, wow, I hope I unlock something for you. But I'm trying to like document the moment and reach people in a way that like will help them like be happier or just find meaning. I think someone who like scrolls on TikTok and like Instagram and all these platforms, like you can tell when something's curated well, and you can also tell when something speaks to you. And like, I know that feeling so well, where you're like scrolling, or like I see a cover and I'm like, wow, like that actually like changes my perception, or like changes the way I think about something I'm going through. And so that's like the main thing, is like I think we're all trying to find meaning in this like crazy time, and it's always a crazy time. There's always new crazy things, but like I think that moment that like you find something that gives you meaning is like so special. Sure. And then the other part of me is like Cosmo again. Like the reason I was like so excited to take over this publication is I was like, there's so much like out there right now to find your way, and to find like who to love and why you love them, and figure out your relationship to sex and who you are. Like that is so loaded right now. Sure. And I would argue it's just really heavy right now. And so to have a place that you can help people and readers is like so special. So I feel very lucky. And I also feel like it's like this well that like will keep growing bigger and bigger, because like that brand proposition is unlike any other publication I've ever worked at. Right.
So, okay. No. Well, no, I'm taking that all. I'm taking that all in. I'm still processing. This is the wheel of death happening in my head right now.
No, safe space.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So one of the things that I think is really interesting about you is, it comes, matter of fact, it comes from the day at which you blessed me with this hat. Like I watched you on a panel in Cannes, and you were talking about the role of the editor as a supporter of, and a progenitor of, like, essentially the business, the health of the business, right? And so I'm interested, part of my question about, what does an editor do now is looking at you in a hybrid role where you edit two different publications, and you are also on-air talent in a podcast and video pod called Blind Date, where you interview celebrities and get into their heads as they sort of reveal themselves to you. You just strike me as a really interesting hybrid, and I wonder whether you feel like you're emblematic of how editors go forward into the future, or just how media people generally need to behave going forward. This is not like, yes, I'm clearly the archetype or anything, Willa, but what I mean just more so is like, how do you see yourself in that dynamic?
Look, it's definitely changed. Like, I think something that I love about my job, like truly, it's different every 3 months. Like, not only are the platforms different, but like the market's different, the context is different. Right. And like, that's something I think a lot about with print, because, we ship off an issue, and then like the world is completely drastically different at an unprecedented speed. And the context in which it goes out is just like day and night. But sure. I really like am excited by it, because how cool that like I have a job that like touches this like public discourse that's moving so quickly that like, even people who have been editors for like 15, 20 years, I talked to some of my mentors, and they're like, this is a different time that you're leading through. So that part's exciting to me. But I think to your question of like, what does an editor do today? It's really interesting. Honestly, I drink a lot of coffee. I wake up really early. I have a lot of thoughts on the weekends. I think like sometimes the best thing I can do for creativity is like not think about it. But I think the pace at which the platforms are changing, that they're appearing, that they're disappearing. I mean, even what we saw over the weekend with TikTok, like things like are huge, and then it's so volatile in that way. And I think the best thing you can do as an editor, like my job is really to like keep the Cosmo mission so succinct that like, again, like a new platform appears tomorrow or something pops up and like people are searching for
it. And it's easy to, and well, it's easy to translate that because you know your brand, your brand position and your mission really well.
Right.
And I think like the worst thing you could do is just let the platforms take over. Like that's not the answer.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I was going to something that you mentioned that I feel like I've had this conversation maybe like 5 times in the past week or during this trip is that like, what like the like secret to the sauce of a publication is exactly that sort of like doing the non-publication things. And I think that is like such an important thing for writers and editors and just creatives in general to sort of think about and just like have like, yes, that sort of log line where you know the mission and like holding that in your pocket always, but then doing things outside of maybe the platforms and just sort of living, because that will always give you so much back and inform that mission in ways that you didn't even realize because you're sort of stepping outside of the boundary and like experiencing things. Because oftentimes I think, you know, even running my own publication is like when you're sort of in it and you're not stepping outside of it, like you do sort of get locked into a way of thinking and like sort of bubbles online. We all do this, but like I think that's so crucial, especially for like, you know, with such a wide reach that you have, like that is like a really important part of the role. And I think you do that a really good job at that.
Oh my God, thank you.
What do you, I mean, seen from another angle though, are there things that you have to do that wouldn't naturally occur to you? Like, in other words, does somebody say to you, you have to be on air because everybody has to be on air at this point? Or is your thought, I'm happy to be on air, but the person who wrote that family, what's the word? Estrangement. Thank you. The family estrangement article, you say to them, don't worry about being on camera because that's not where you need to be. You know what I mean? It's sort of like, does everybody have to do everything, in other words?
No, I think like that's no. No one has to do everything. I think that's like where kind of publications get like, so it's like you can't be everything to everyone. Like we have to be so clear of what we are. We have to be so clear about our community, be so clear about our audience. I will say the blind date example is basically this video series where we've done 2 seasons. I go on a blind date with a celebrity, tough day at the office, and I'm blindfolded and someone comes in and I have to guess who they are. Spoiler alert, I never get it right. And it's pretty embarrassing for me, but that's why it goes viral. But what's interesting is like when I get the celebrity after my blindfold's off to like really talk about love and relationships. Sometimes I'll read like old issues of Cosmo and they're like, that aged badly. Sometimes it ages well. But like that discussion is really like the heartbeat of, I think, what is interesting about it. And that came from like this thought I had. I just kept like, you know, again, I'm a consumer of this type of content. So it's like, I am in it. I'm like a reader. And I just was like, so many interesting conversations about love and relationships are happening in video form.
Sure.
And the fact that like we weren't reaching people there, I thought was a disservice to our audience. And then to your point about, you know, working with partners, like, we were going to do it. And then Elf was super down. And Elf is like this incredible partner that I work really well with their team. And I think they actually truly get our audience. And so after a couple of meetings, we decided that this was the idea. And so like they just elevated it to a larger audience, which again, amazing. And it really like, it always has to come from the audience. And Cosmo Sports, another great example of this. Like that was something like, I saw our audience so interested in, and then we partnered with Coach, and it was like perfect because they just elevated it to a bit different audience. But I won't work with a partner unless it's like it works.
Sure.
Like that would be a disservice to my audience, I think.
I think you're right.
You want to fight? Kidding.
No, not at all. And as somebody that I ran a big commercial team, and that was always my argument against the easy sell or against the low hanging fruit was like, is this going to be, and not to oversimplify, but it's like, is this going to be cool? Is the audience going to appreciate this and see new value in it, or is this going to feel like a cash grab? Because if it feels like a cash grab, we can do it, and it's going to do us a disservice in the long term. So let's be ready for that as a consequence.
Yeah, I also think on that topic, like brands, like I love brands. Like I love talking to them. I think that is actually something I really love about my job, is like talking to brands that I've like consumed for like 10 years. Like Coach, for example, like I have like bought them at different times. I love what they do. I think it's so interesting. I'm like watching The Summer I Turned Pretty, the tabby bags in there, and I'm like, great marketing, by the way. Gonna buy one now. So like I get it. And like I think like talking to them, like they don't want to also like work with publications that don't like have the same mission. Like these brands also want to succeed. So it's like you give them honest feedback, both people are happy.
I was gonna say there's also with 17 and like the young, like younger Gen Z people who are 17, like there's a different dynamic and view of brands maybe than when I think maybe that is a pervasive teenage thing, that relationship to brands and sort of like that being in a culture or an into culture. I do think especially now, like that is like a lot of the branded conversations, which is why like, you know, name myriad products over the past 2 years that have gone viral. It's really driven by young people. And
Liquid Death.
Well, okay, that's probably more millennial. But like, I mean, like things like, you know, like a Stanley Cup, things like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Those are really rooted in like, you know, middle and high school kids, specifically girls. Like they really are such a culture driver because of that relationship to brands and products and objects in the ways that just like young people do. And so I think that is like a really smart move, because I don't like, it seems natural for 17 and Cosmo in ways. But like I think a lot of other publications, to your point, Ben, have difficulties because it has to be the right one, because the audience is maybe more selective, versus younger people. Like that is almost in this economy a stamp of approval. Because I watch Elf on TikTok, because I follow so and so on Instagram, and they're a brand. Like that I think is a young modality in ways that I think is unique to younger people.
It's funny you should say that, because I like the writer David Marks, who wrote recently put out Blank Space. He called me when he was in the research phase of the book, and he said, what do you think the big turning points were in this kind of culture? And I said, I think it was actually when MySpace allowed brands into your top 8, because it allowed kids to grow up, and it's mostly millennials now, to grow up with the idea that brands could be your friends in a very active way. It was a repudiation of the anti-sellout culture of Gen X that I grew up with. So I don't know if it is like purely a young people thing in that way.
Young people generally, or young people now?
I'm not sure that's so recent, is what I mean. Like I think it's been going on for a while.
It's very dependent. I'm sure you know this, is that like, you know, kids like adults, they have very diverse interests, and there always is going to be the countercultural, I'm too cool for this kid, and like they're not going to follow any brand, and like that's valid. That's
Willa, what do you make of, speaking of relatively speaking, the kids, right? The new entrance into the media ecosystem. What do you think about the newsletterification of everything, the Substack, the rise of Substack, or any of these other news like platforms? Is that stuff you look at and go, this is an opportunity, this is competition, this is a hunting ground in the nicest possible way for future talent? Like how do you view that space?
Okay, I personally love Substack. I think it's like a social platform. Substack. Like I have been saying recently to my team, I'm like, it's a social platform. Like it really is. Like in the same way that like when I write something I'm proud of, I want to share it to my Instagram audience or my TikTok audience. Like I want to share it to Substack. The other thing, I was speaking at NYU recently. There's some students in this room from this class.
Shout out our student audience.
Literally, journalism is in. Thank you all so much. But okay, something interesting is like someone raised their hand, not the person who came here tonight, but raised their hand. And I loved this question, was like, people are so rude about Substack, but at the end of the day, like, at least we're reading again.
Very good point.
That's true.
And like, period.
But Substack, if you're listening, put that on a t-shirt. That's great.
Like, it's true. Like, Substack is really about the written word. And it reminds me a lot of when I was in middle school and I was I was a huge fan fiction writer. And so to me, I'm like,
my God.
Like,
yeah, you don't want to know about it.
A little one,
we know
come
this
on, you got to give us a taste.
It was like, imagine like Edward and Jacob making out.
Oh, preheated
in
rivalry.
the locker bathroom. No, literally, I threw the first
Twilight
brick.
rivalry.
Literally.
Oh, okay, that's I was gonna say I don't know who those people are. So
by the way, that's not for you to know.
That's for us.
But tell Harper. Harper will get it.
Okay, God.
Okay. So, but here's what I'll say. It's like I read Substack sometimes, and I'm like, this is incredible writing, and I will message the person being like, do you want to write for Cosmos? So to me, it's like a discovery platform. And the other thing that's inspiring about it to me is like, I was writing fan fiction. I went to school at Sarah Lawrence, and I was writing at Sarah Lawrence. And like in my wildest dreams, someone sitting in an office at Hearst Tower would see it.
Yeah.
And so the fact that I'm like discovering writers on there, I think is like so awesome.
So I have sorry.
Yeah, what's your question about fan fiction?
No, I don't have
a
question.
Team
I
Jacob
don't have a
Edward?
question. I don't know who
He's
these people
so Team
are.
Jacob.
I don't know who these people are. No, my question actually though, or what I wanted to say though was that we have a friend in the audience who runs a publication who I am as an advisor to that publication constantly saying, don't put all of your eggs in the writing basket, because I want to see the way you expand otherwise. That having been said, and the way that you've venerated writing on Substack, what do you make of the whole Substack TV app that was announced last week?
Makes sense. Like, were you surprised?
No, not at all. And in fact, one of the reasons that we are doing this iteration of hip replacement, and that we've just launched a hip replacement newsletter today, is
congrats.
Thank you. That we want to create some surface area for that platform as an exploration.
That we want our like iPad parents to like be scrolling on Substack and watch this. So tell them to put it on their Apple TVs.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, let's talk about Netflix's like big Spotify's, like their big podcasters.
Of course.
Like that is crazy to me. I think it's like, it's so happening. It's like, we can't ignore it. Like, it's kind of like why we launched Blind Date. It's
but is it bad?
No.
Okay.
Well,
everything's like bad and good. Like let's like get out of that.
Yeah, right. Two things can be true, generally speaking.
Yeah, it's like I feel like every year there's a new headline that's like media's dead. I'm like, how many articles did everyone in this room read today?
Yes.
Media is not dead.
I read a lot.
But to that, like everything is TV now. So it's like that is like amazing, but also like that sucks. Because we are TV now too, but like that is like that.
No, I don't know. I'm way more optimistic about it. Like
I mean, yes. I'm just speaking more to like, I have to like audition for my job. It's like, okay, I don't love that for you, but we are doing this willingly. Yes.
I don't know. I'm optimistic. I'm like, people love curation. I mean, we talk about this all the time. Like, you gotta have real editorial instincts to be a publication, and like you have to lean into that. And like, what an exciting time to lead through these like uncertain times where people actually like to have questions about their sexuality and dating, and like what an exciting moment for Cosmo to exist in. I really am optimistic about it, but I think the whole like video content, like, I mean, we've been through this enough. Like, it changes. You sometimes follow the trends. At the end of the day, you do what's right for your brand. And I think having two publications that like I oversee that have really clear brand propositions, like, people are always going to search for us, and I feel very lucky.
Yeah,
in that way.
I have to say I'm very bullish on it, mainly because I am drawn to spaces where there is possibility, and I think the idea that Substack going, all right, we're going to show up on people's connected TV apps, and you can watch it in your living room. You watch this conversation, or you could read an article long form or whatever. I haven't used the app yet, so I'm not exactly sure how it takes form, but I like that sense of possibility. I also it reminds me a little bit of the kind of guerrilla action that's happening through platforms like Substack. There was a story last week, of course, about some enterprising young writers finding that the copyright to Gourmet had lapsed at Condé Nast and picking that up and turning it into, or reviving it as a brand, as a newsletter. Like that to me it's very exciting. If I'm Condé Nast, I am not only not stepping on that, I am trying to figure out how to accelerate it in some kind of meaningful way, even though I know it's not my necessarily IP anymore.
Goes back to me with the VPN thought. Like, it's like, they're going to find that. Like,
yeah.
Like Jen's, like, they are so smart. Respect.
By
the way, that person that found that deserves that IP.
Yes.
I totally agree.
Okay, one more thing I want to say.
Okay, say please.
Am I allowed? Do I have the floor?
Please.
Okay. Have you ever been a fan of something, like a true fan?
Never.
Like you're
Not
like
once
crying.
in my whole life. Never.
See,
No,
like,
of course. What are you talking about? Of
come
course.
on, what do you fangirl besides Cosmo?
Oh man.
Like, come on.
I mean,
I could give you some.
Not to be really, really that guy, but Oasis was really important to me.
Wow.
First 2 records.
You're literally like, you're not even trying.
I'm just telling you the
what are you
fucking.
gonna say? Wonderwall's your favorite song?
No, not at all.
Oh.
No, Slide Away is my favorite song.
Okay.
No.
Anything else we got?
I love Wonderwall, but Slide Away. The B-sides, the first 8 singles, the B-sides on the first 8 singles are, I mean, amazing. Like, what? Forget it.
That's awesome for you.
Guess what, guys?
So,
I'm 50.
No, but here's what I'll say. Like, being a fan of something, like, you will find it wherever. Like, you do not care about the platform.
That's true.
You're like, Substack, whatever. I'm here for Olivia Rodrigo. Period.
Sure.
Period.
That's fair. That's a
and
really
so,
good
like,
point.
that's how I think about Cosmo. I'm like, if your product and your, like, brand propositioning is so strong, it's like, I do actually want help from Cosmo to, like, help me what the fuck is going on in my love life. Like, am I allowed to curse? I did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks. That's how I feel about it.
Sure.
And that's why I'm like, don't get caught up in like what platforms in and out. You'll just like lose track of why you're doing this. And again, like I study journalism at Sarah Lawrence. Like I'm very like romantic about the written form, but like at the same time, I'm like, okay, people are on video. Like, all right, I got you. I'll go on blind dates with Renee Rapp. No problem.
Sure.
I can do that during the workday.
I mean,
so fun.
You know?
Could think of harder.
Yeah, I would say so.
Oh, you want to go on a blind date with Renee Rapp?
I'm, I'm very happily booed up. But
Does Renee want to go on a date with Ben?
I'm not going to be the one to ask.
Exactly. I mean, in this hat, you're kidding me?
Well, fair.
Okay. Well,
I'm not commenting on this.
So, Willa, we're coming to the end.
You're like, you gotta leave.
No.
Just be honest. I was your spiciest guest.
No. Our spiciest guest.
That's a great question.
I think that's probably true. I think that's probably true.
True.
I don't think any of our previous guests would take any umbrage at that. You know what I mean?
True. I also yes. I agree.
I think they'd be as pleased to be in your company as you would be to be in theirs. So.
Well, I do love the pod. As like,
thank you.
I love to challenge you both, but like at the end of the day, I think you guys are doing such a great job having really interesting conversations, and again, like making people like believe in media, which I do think is so important right now.
Yeah, for sure.
And bringing people together in real life in a snowstorm, like media matters truly, and like I feel grateful that you guys champion this work.
Well, thank you. Look, that actually, believe it or not, ties in exactly to the question I wanted to ask you, which was, we are. I think Kyle and I, one of the reasons we found each other and that we enjoy doing this is that we are both what I would describe as endlessly curious, right? And part of that is always wanting to know where people that we like, admire, follow, pay attention to, whatever, get their information. Like, where do your primary sources of information come from? Is there anything you want to shout out as a little hidden gem or secret treat or anything like that? And
also, like, even like things you do too, like maybe there's something that's totally offline or not even related to reading that's like really nourishing.
It's a really good question. Okay. There's like 3 people I talk to. But first I want to say Emily Sundberg's Substack is genuinely amazing. Big fan. I think she like does such a great job at like curating things. And there's a couple other Substacks that like I really trust their POV. Casey Lewis, who you guys had on, Hunter Harris wrote Cosmo cover story. Love her. I think she's a really interesting voice. Like I, again, am like very romantic about good writing. Like I think if someone has a POV, something will happen. And I do actually crave specific people's POV. Sure. Aside from that, I talked to my dad, who's was born 1950, and his view is like, he's really like, he's seen it all. And so every time I'm like, oh my God, this is the craziest thing that happened to me. He's like, girl, I've been around the block, no worries.
Yeah,
so
I feel like that's my role on this podcast, basically.
Which is
and
needed.
Then, wait, on the other side, I have my teen sister in college who's like, you're not cool. Like, I don't care that you were hanging out with Renee Rapp. Like, LOL, who do you think you are? And I go, so fair. Like, I like the juxtaposition. I'm really close to my family, despite the articles that were published on my website.
No, not at all.
And I don't know. I think another tip that I've been giving like younger writers on my staff is like make a Finsta, because I do feel like we're all very guilty right now of like only seeing the echo chamber of our feeds. And I think if you make a Finsta and you like follow people that just like are outside of your immediate bubble, it's actually quite interesting. So recently I've been doing this thing where it's like I have a Finsta on Instagram and I'll follow different people just for the sake of curiosity. And it's pretty interesting. And I will say the number one thing I look for in people who apply for jobs at Cosmo is curiosity.
Cool. That's, I mean.
So guess you have a good shot.
Great little tip there.
That's what I learned.
Little tip there. Awesome. Well,
are you exhausted? Be honest.
No, I'm not. No, not at all. It's funny actually. The Air team who are graciously hosting us today, they asked me earlier. They were like, "Do you need what was it? An energy break? A social energy break? What did you say? A social battery break?" I was like, "I don't run on social batteries, man. I'm just like, this is power. It's beer and pizza for me."
Yeah.
Willa, any?
I'm so scared. I'm never going to be invited back on the pod.
No,
and I actually am okay with that.
No. Wow. All right. There we go. She just invited me to write for Cosmo, and now it doesn't want to go. All right. Okay. Fine.
Okay.
Divisive times.
See? Well, it has been a real pleasure to have you here. Thank you for being on Hip Replacement episode number 42.
42.
Where do the kids find you outside of course, cosmopolitan.com, 17.com, Willa H. Bennett on Instagram?
Yeah, all of the above.
Any other places? Any other fun?
Everywhere. I'm everywhere. I got Substack, TikTok, X.
Hell yeah.
Come find her.
Yeah, I'm here. But also you can talk to me here. And so cool. So many of you I've met before. Very, very honored that you came back. And yeah, thank you for reading Cosmo. Well, means the world.
Beautiful.
Thank you very much. Everybody in the live audience, please give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you all.
And we will see you on the next episode of Hip Replacement.
43.
Bye.